Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Light-Minded Individuals podcast, where we discuss with individuals ideas, inspirations, plans, and actions to bring more light to this world to create a positive change in our world. My name is Madison White. I'm a spiritual healer, teacher, and guide based out of Boston, Massachusetts. Today on with us, we have Monika. She is a neurocentric and holistic personal trainer, transformational coach, and professional healer. She believes that each of us is best served by studying and understanding our own physical, mental, and spiritual strengths, limitations, and influences. She believes in taking a multidisciplinary approach and asking deep questions to get to the root cause of what is holding people back from stepping into their most efficient and pain-free selves. With 2 decades under her belt, she is passionate about helping others lead purposeful and conscientious lives, as well as exploring their mind, body, and spirit through movement and play. Monika, hello, welcome, and thank you so much for being on with us today. I'm excited for our conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always an honor and a privilege. So thank you for sharing this with me.
Yeah, so I have to set the stage and let people know that I have a personal experience in working with you as a personal trainer. I think it was 2 years ago. You and I started an arrangement where you were doing personal training for me, and I was doing some energy healing sessions for you. And I'm someone who has, I played sports in high school, so I had a little bit of a foundation of movement and fitness and being a dancer and things. But, getting into my mid 30s, I was really realizing that if I wanted to have longevity in my life, that I really needed a good workout routine. And you really helped me to establish a really strong, powerful foundation, not only, in the fitness and as far as like what to do and how to do it, but also sort of giving me a new program in relationship to how I think about working out and how I think about connecting with my body in the realms of strength training and mobility and all this kind of stuff. So I want to say, from my personal heart, thank you for that. I have benefited personally from your expertise, so thank you so much. And
You're welcome. It goes both ways,
mhm, mhm. So I wanted to have you on today to talk about, the theme that I'm working with for January. And people may be watching this, in January, anytime people are watching this, about setting goals and setting intentions and resolutions. And a big one that a lot of people talk about, people will joke about how January 1st is like the busiest time at the gyms, right? Because everyone is like trying to go into January and jump into some fitness routine, and how it doesn't always stick. Sometimes it does and people are successful, but sometimes it doesn't. So I myself, as a person who wants to get the most out of life, I'm always looking at, okay, why is it successful sometimes and why is it not successful other times? So I wanted to talk about your experience with working with clients, overcoming these obstacles. And I'll give a little bit of backstory. Also, you got into fitness and movement training and even spirituality and becoming an energy healer kind of by accident. Like, you weren't necessarily looking for it. It's something that just, I don't know, was it like right place, right time? Were you just kind of like going with the flow? Like, what was your experience of kind of getting into this profession?
That's a very good question. It was a long time ago, but I guess when I look back on it, when people ask me who I am and what I do, my first response is always like, I'm a student of life, period. All the time. I want to learn and I want to know it all. But when I was younger, I was finishing up high school and I was really cognizant that everybody around me wanted to go to business school. And I felt like I should be doing that thing. But no part of me wanted to do that thing. And I felt super weird. I didn't follow through with college right away. I ended up taking some nutrition classes, but I knew I couldn't sit in an office and just kind of like, I knew myself enough to know that I needed to do something a little different. So I kind of flailed about for a little bit. I fell into some nutrition classes, and then nutrition fell into personal training. And I realized I could play and I could move and I could interact with people. And that kind of set the stage for the rest of my life. And I kept going deeper and deeper and deeper into that. It started off with personal training, honestly, because I didn't know what else to do. And it was something that I was interested in, and I also didn't have the skill sets for. So even if it didn't turn out into a career, I don't think that was necessarily the point. At the whole time I was learning. I was learning about myself. I was learning about nutrition and macros and what was good for me, what wasn't good for me, and why I was failing. Because there were times in my life when I look back at being 16, 17, 18 years old, I put on weight. I did things that were inappropriate. I didn't know how to go to the gym. I didn't know how to necessarily move my body. So I learned about sets and reps. And then the whole journey just kind of expanded from there. From movement, I kind of went into life coaching. I went into energy work. I went into meditation. And I just keep taking it wherever it's going to be. And I always say, my clients, the people that I see on a regular basis, they teach me what I'm going to do next. Like when they come in with their issues, sometimes I have to sit there and be like, I don't know what to do with this, but I'm going to find out. And every single time, every single day, I've got clients that come in with all sorts of different things, and I just see where it goes every single day.
Yeah. I love that dynamic you talk about where like your student becomes your teacher. Because I think a lot of people enter into whether it's the fitness or anything that they want to do with their lives, and they think that they have to fit themselves, or maybe either they feel like they have to fit themselves into some certain box, and or they think that somebody else must know better than them, right? So then they have to find, some sort of program or box or teacher that they have to somehow fit themselves into. But what you're describing sounds more like you kind of build the system as you go, and you build the formula as you go by being curious and present and like in the moment. So what's that process for you? Like, because like I said, a lot of people will, think that they have to find some coach or go to certain classes and get their bodies to fit into some system, but you kind of work backwards. What's that like?
Yeah, well, first of all, I've always done things backwards. I don't think I've ever really followed the rules in my life, honestly. And I've always given myself a lot of like, I didn't really know at the time if I was doing things correctly. And I look back at my life and I'm like, oh, I was doing it perfectly. I was just kind of like messing up and figuring it out. But my answer in anything, whenever somebody asks me a question, my answer is always, it depends. It depends on so many different factors. We are so multidimensional, and each person I treat differently because I always try to meet somebody where they're at. There is a time and a place to follow a system and to do things because you don't know what else to do. But you don't want to follow that system so deep into it that you lose who you are. So I always say, go into it, study it deeply, and get that. Like when you're in it, you're going to see one perspective of something, no matter whether it's training, meditation, spirituality, no matter what it is, whether it's your career, whatever. But you also have to be willing to step out and be without the program and see how that is. And then, like what I learned through functional neurology is there's a test and reassessment that we should be doing all the times. Test something, try it out. How does it feel in your body? How does it respond? What are the fruits of your labor? If you get good results that you want and you're aiming for, stick with that particular program for that time. But you have to be willing to end a program if you're not getting your needs met, if you're not getting your desires met. So step in, step out, step in, step out. And in functional neurology, we learned test, reassess, test, reassess, test, reassess. We should technically be doing that all the time. And if we do that all the time, we can stay present within certain systems. There are so many programs that I started for education that I never completed because it wasn't appropriate for me. It felt really awkward at the time to have to say goodbye, but it didn't make sense to follow through with the programming because while I was in that system, I learned that it wasn't the right thing for me. And then there's other times in my life where I followed through with something when I knew it wasn't right for me because I had to see it through. So again, it depends on so many different factors. And if you're always like intuitively paying attention and staying in the moment, you'll know what that is. And sometimes, again, you have to do things wrong. I think and I see a lot of my clients, I used to do this a lot. You can give yourself a lot of crap for, what's the word? Kind of like ending something or being in something for too long. Like we're not always supposed to be right. We're not always supposed to do something correct. We learn from doing things correctly. We also learn from mistakes. And a lot of people will take themselves out because they feel like they're doing a mistake or they're doing something inappropriate or wrong. But like, it's only up to you to figure out how far you take that. There's many lessons I learned in my life where I took it 5 years too far, a relationship or a training program, and with aches and pains or whatever. But if you use pain in your own body as a way to kind of like gauge how far you need to go into it, that's another thing I learned in functional neurology. We're not supposed to live painful lives. There's a difference between suffering that is necessary and suffering that is unnecessary. And if you use pain as an assessment to figure out if you're going too far out in the right direction, that's another way to kind of gauge, like, is this the kind of pain that's like in a workout where you're pushing past your boundaries? You have to push into some discomfort. But are you pushing into so much discomfort that you have this ache in your neck and it's been there for 3 months and it's not going away? You might not need to be pushing through in like doing all these push-ups or whatever it might be. And I take that in every part of my life at this point. Sometimes it happens through training, sometimes it happens in a relationship, sometimes it happens through an educational system that I'm in. But like there's some pain that is necessary, some discomfort that's necessary, and some that isn't. And we have to get really good at gauging like what kind of pain is this? Is this necessary for my growth? Because there's that edge, right? In order to grow, you have to push past comfort. But have I been doing this for so long that it doesn't really serve the purpose anymore? What's the purpose? What's the target? And bringing that always back to the same thing. So does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and it's like, as a spiritual guide, I'm listening to everything that you say and hearing how much it like the world of fitness in relation to your body and essentially like the physical world, right? How much of that is mirrored in a spiritual practice or in spiritual evolution, in energy work, right? It's so much the same of like knowing the difference of when am I pushing myself and because life one of my things is that I believe that a meaningful life is a life where there are challenges, where you are being pushed to overcome obstacles. Like that's what kind of like gives you meaning and purpose. And it's the same for fitness, but knowing the difference of like, am I overcoming challenges and getting closer to my purpose? Or am I just swimming upstream and in some sort of like martyrdom, everything has to be hard type of place? And the difference comes back to just knowing yourself. And in the realm of your relationship with your body, and this is something that sounds like a lot of what working with you and the type of services that you provide in the realm of personal training is not just here's the formula, follow it, but let's get curious about your body and how your body feels. And can you listen to the messages that your body is trying to send you? And in the realm of spirit, we're talking about, can you listen to the messages that your higher self is trying to send you, that spirit is trying to send you, that God is trying to send you? And can you differentiate between, is this a message from my higher self or is this a message from my negative ego? Is this the type of pain that is good and I'm building muscle or I'm stretching and I should push through because I'm building something that hasn't been there before? Or am I just hurting myself? What is it? What do you think helps people, whether you want to take this the spiritual route or the physical route, that probably mirror each other? It's like, how do you differentiate like between those two for people? Like is there a way that is, or even for yourself in yourself, in your personal practice, like when do you know when you need to push and when you need to rest?
That's a really good question. I think it goes back to the test reassessment process because you're going to know by your fruits.
Mm.
Anytime I see somebody flailing and they're like, "Oh, I'm eating correctly. I'm bringing it to training right now. Oh, I'm eating correctly." If they're real and honest with themselves, they're not. Because you know in 3 days if you've been following your program. Now, weight training and strength training might be a little different when it comes to something like nutrition. You know really quickly. There's an inflammatory process that's going to start to leave your body. Our gut and our tummies heal pretty quickly. Maybe not 3 days for some people, maybe it's a week or maybe it's a month. But if you're following nutrition, if you are eating real food, right, that does not come out of a package, you're going to notice very quickly that inflammatory, that water, that bloating stage that everybody gets when they're eating inappropriately goes very quickly. Everybody's metabolism a little different, right? Some people are working, like we live in a really complicated world right now where it's not so simple, it's not so black and white. I see a lot of people who come in with some pretty serious tummy issues and metabolic disorders. So again, that's not going to be a quick fix, but it might be if everybody could magically snap their fingers and just do what they're supposed to do. The problem is it's not just about the food, right? That's why I couldn't stop at personal training because there were so many other things holding people back. There's inner child healing. There's a lot of people eat with their emotions. A lot of people don't have a support system at home. Some people just simply don't know what to do and don't know how to eat. They've forgotten what the real way to live is because our world is just really complicated and modern and very convenient in a lot of ways, right? What I have noticed over time is on any journey, you tend to swing in like these extremes in the beginning, right? And there's a learning process. If you're actually paying attention, there's a learning process of when you ebb and flow. And I do find that if you've been on a path for long enough, those swings are less and less. So instead of going off for 3 years and falling off track, you fall off for 3 months or 3 days. And so my job as a personal trainer, and I hope I do this, is save a lot of people time because I'm always trying to meet them where they're at and just bring the awareness back. Where are you today? Where are you right now? Instead of, again, falling off track for 3 months, putting on, not going to the gym for however long. It's just about when you stay mindful, you're going to realize, oh, I fell off for a couple of days. Okay, let me get back on again. Because in order to see results, you don't have to be 100% perfect all the time. That would be an insanity. You're allowed a little bit of leeway as long as you're not doing things that are super harmful to your body, right? Like if you were to go out on a Saturday night and party, most people don't just get back to the gym the next day. They're going to spend 3 days trying to recover, rehydrate, whatever you want to call it, right? Over time, that refinement process, I think, gets better. And we don't kind of like ebb and flow all over the place.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of what you're touching upon is that, which I think like totally falls in line with a lot of what I've been talking about in, as regards to being successful in setting goals, is that it's very rarely, right? You kind of said you were like, in a perfect world, right? We could just snap our fingers and eat all the right food and work out exactly the way that we're supposed to and get up on time when we want to, you know what I mean? And everything would just flow smoothly. But that's not the case. That when we're trying to implement new patterns of behavior that are healthier for us, that are more based in self-care and self-love, there's oftentimes deeper emotional, not oftentimes, I'm willing to say all the time, some sort of emotional sort of processing that has to go on. Because what I say is that if you want to do or be, if you want to have something or be a certain way and you don't have or aren't doing that thing, there's something else that you're choosing instead. Now, there's lots of factors, right? There's lots of like external factors that are going to go and affect that ability to choose something better for ourselves, of course. But at the same time, there's also going to be an internal factor. There's always a place where we have power, right? There's always a place where we have the power to choose a scenario or how we choose to interact with a scenario. So, and sometimes that's just like you said, like being in the moment. That process of, stepping back and reassessing is looking at ourselves and saying like, yeah, what is going on? Like, what is actually stopping me? Is that kind of what helped you like move into like the life coaching and the energy work eventually?
You know, what helped me move in there? Looking back on it, honestly, I think I was destined for this. Did I find it? Did it find me? Like that's a very good question. But why I actually like I use personal training as a vehicle to do much deeper work,
Mhm.
right? I didn't know that in the beginning. I just kind of was like, here where I'm at, and this is what I'm willing to do. And I would say to most of my clients and anyone who's listening to this, you might think you need to take it a certain way, but where can you move right now? What change can you make right now? There's a somebody recommended a YouTube video. It's like some Marine who was basically like his whole speech is on like make your bed. Like where can you start right now? Because I think what takes people out is like they think they have to go on this crazy program and that like all of a sudden go to the gym. I have to go to the gym 5 to 7 times a week, blah, whatever. And it's so overwhelming that you maybe do it for like 3 days and then you fall off because it's too much too soon. Where can you move? Where can you push the boundaries right now? And it might be literally like doing your laundry because your gym clothes have been at the bottom for the last couple of weeks and you don't have clothes to even go step foot into the gym. Like, what can I do right now? And I took that tangent off a little bit because you asked me a different question, like, how did I get the life coaching, the energy work? I fell into personal training for whatever reason. And what I noticed with clients is when they were with me, when I held space for them, right, they did great. If you and I had a chef today, you and I would eat beautifully every single day, right? When you have that space held for you, and then someone's pushing you, you could maybe complain and give your trainer like a little bit of crap and be like, ugh, whatever, I don't like you right now. But you're gonna show up because you're paying for that service, right? But what I noticed with some of my clients, actually a lot of them, is when they were with me, they did great. And when then they would go off on a trip, they would go out with their families. Maybe they were with me for a certain program and then took some time off. Then they might come back again later. And every single time they came back, I always wondered, like, why can't they maintain this on their own? Right. And so I realized I needed to go deeper and have deeper conversations to kind of like pull out the root cause. And at that time, I thought I wanted to be a naturopathic physician. And I learned like this root cause of suffering, root cause of disease that I've always kind of like stuck with. And I wanted to have deeper conversations to see what else was holding them back. Because when they were here in a perfect setup, when they had an appointment and they had to show up a couple times a week, they were doing it. They weren't able to maintain that outside of our time together. So the life coaching program that I studied was actually all about energetics. And it was about how to hold conversation, how to ask people deep questions and learn how to take them from a low vibrational state to a higher vibrational state where they could make better decisions for themselves. I thought it was wonderful. And that had everything to do with energy work. And then that set me deeper into studying energy work and meditation. And as I healed, as I learned, I realized I got different mirrors because, it goes both ways. A lot of times my clients are my best teachers. If I was going through something, my client would come in and they'd be going through the same thing at the same time. But even to this day, there are some people who can walk in the door and they can learn a program and they can go home and they could repeat that program on their own. Everyone's a little different. There are some people that there's other stuff in the way. And what I realized over time is some people needed more coaching work. They needed not just a program to walk away with at home, because even if they had that program, they weren't going to follow through with it on their own. Maybe they needed energy work. And there's some people that just needed the way. And that's where the energy work came in, because there are some people that no matter how much space I hold, no matter what kind of questions I hold for them, there's something there I couldn't access. And that's where the energy work kind of played in. And when I can't get anybody to move and they're sticky and I don't really know as a guide and as somebody who's holding space, if we do energy work together, that person shifts in a like a root cause kind of way that I don't even have to know what it is. They start to make better decisions for themselves. All of a sudden it's like they just open up their eyes and they look at their life. The answer is in front of everybody all the time. None of my clients, I don't go in and give anybody the answers. They walk in, and if I hold space, I know I don't have to know anything about them. All I have to do is ask questions that nobody else is asking them and go, what do you think? What's holding you back? And sometimes they'll be like, oh, I don't know. Everybody knows. Everybody knows what they should be doing. Everybody knows what's holding them back, the relationships or the bad habits. And it's like there's something about the energy work that hits at the root cause. I'll have clients who haven't seen changes in several years, and all of a sudden, like, they just do this one thing they needed to do a long time ago. And it's like, it's literally magic. So by using all of those modalities, right? Some people just need a program. Some people need the nutrition and the training program. Some people need the life coaching. And then thank goodness I have the tools around energy work, because that's just like, that's the thing that helps people get unstuck in a way that like I can't even comprehend. Although I'm learning too. You understand that we
I
study
do.
the same lineage, but it's nice to have all these different tools. I don't use them all at the same time, but like even certain clients, like sometimes they need a training program, sometimes they need to focus on nutrition. Sometimes I always try to like do the thing that they are unwilling to do or having struggling with. I always say it's like their weak link. And
Mm.
it's nice to be able to have all these tools to hit it from different angles, because people we're so complicated. And like where I am even today, I'm not going to be in a week or a month. I have people who support me and help me with all sorts of things, a chiropractor, a trainer, a coach, somebody who does energy work with me, right? Because it just helps keep things flowing and clean so that I personally can stay in my center, the eye of the storm, right? Because if you don't stay in the eye of the storm, what does happen to your life? You get taken and pulled in every single direction. My kids, my partner, my career, this, that, whatever. All live very complicated lives. None of us live super simply. So anyways, I'm ranting and going off on a tangent, but I feel like it kind of applies to this anyway, because I'm no different than anybody else. And what's going to help somebody stay in the present moment is, again, staying in their central ground, being in a place of discernment, being able to be authentic, feel authentic, and then to relate from that place so that you don't get taken away and off your program and you're off your program for 3 months, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I love how you talk about it being multidimensional and finding where the weak link is, and going for that thing, because that's ultimately how it's going to make you
It
stronger.
just it lifts everything up. If you hit it at the weak link, assuming there's flow, because sometimes you think you need to hit it at this certain point. Have you ever worked on something and like you can't budget? There
Mm-hmm.
has to be flow, I've noticed. So
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, you see something and you're like, oh shoot, I have to work on that. And then you work on that, you work on that, you work on that, and you realize you're up against a wall. When you come up against a wall, what I've noticed over time is maybe that doesn't need to shift anymore.
Mm.
Maybe you need to shift your attention somewhere else and then come back to that thing. So
Yeah.
there's like, we do need to hit it at the weakest length. That being said, sometimes we're not ready to hit it at a certain point and we have to shift directions for a little bit until we kind of like build ourselves up to be able to look at that with like a different perspective or maybe with somebody,
Mm.
right? Maybe somebody's helping us look at this certain aspect of our life and then we can hit it later. So there is the weak link thing, but sometimes with the weak link, I've noticed is we're not always ready for it. If
Yeah.
there's no flow, if there's an energetic blockage and you're trying all these different things and it's not working, it's just time to take a pause, go somewhere else for a second. Thank goodness we're multidimensional. There's so much happening all at the same time. It's not like we just have one thing at a time to focus on. You shift gears and then all of a sudden you can come back to it with almost like fresh eyes. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden we're able to work through this one thing.
Right, right. And sometimes it is that like shift in perspective. I had just to like relate a personal story. I had a huge shift recently where I had this pattern where if I had like an especially long, long day, it wasn't even that I was doing anything bad. You know what I mean? It was just like a long day and I wanted to come home. And my pattern was usually I would like cook myself dinner and then I would kind of like plop myself on the couch and watch like whatever, Netflix, whatever. And then all of a sudden it's like 11 o'clock at night and I need to put myself to bed. And all of a sudden it's like a rush to like get my nighttime routine done. And then I was going to bed late and you know how that goes. And it became a shift where I kind of realized, and it was such like an aha epiphany moment, the simplest thing where I realized that if I have a long day, it's, I instead of like getting to sit on the couch and veg out, what if I get to have a really long, beautiful nighttime routine? Where I take time with like my nighttime, my facial care products, and I take time to meditate and I take time to journal. And it's like that shift of like vegging on the couch for me in that scenario was not self-care. It was dissociation and escaping from my life. Whereas having a beautiful nighttime routine that really like lulls me into sleep and puts me in a place where I can go to bed earlier, like that's my self-care routine. And it was just this simple shift of like, and the same can be applied for fitness where it's like, I don't have to work out. I get to work out, right? And shifting to that place. And that's where I think people can find a lot of joy too in the fitness and in working out is in feeling like it's a beautiful gratitude filled process of like, I get to overcome these obstacles. Right. I get to see myself and know myself on these deeper levels where I get to become a better person tomorrow, in 5 minutes, in 5 years, in 5 weeks than I am today because I get to apply myself to these deeper questionings, to these processes, to these shifts that are going to allow me to become so much more of who I am, actually. So it really all goes hand in hand in a beautiful way of like that mind, spirit, body connection.
Yeah. And what you tapped into is when you were talking, I was thinking of like this shift into gratitude because a lot of what keeps people back, I've noticed in the gym, I don't think I'm wrong, is limited beliefs, but like getting sucked into these states of fear and being like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, there are a ton of people and they're going to be looking at me. Oh my gosh, like whatever is going through our heads, right? And if you're going to tap into joy and to stay in the present moment in the gym, it's really important to understand that like it is a privilege to move your body. There are so many people that can't do it. It is a privilege to be able to have space and time in your day to not have to go after kids, to not have to be in a career. You get time to be able to escape for a little bit. And so it's starting to like shift the mentality around like, oh, this is a chore. Oh, I hate this. To like stepping in and being like, what do I want to do to it? What do I want to do today? What do I get to do today? And I don't think a lot of people walk into the gym thinking that because there's so much fear that gets in the way of like, what if I mess up? What if I hurt myself? Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And the best place to start is to literally just like walk in the door and forget the program, forget the weights, forget the training. Like every time I step off my program and I get back into the gym, I don't look at what's in the gym. I find a space on the floor and I start to like feel my body in relationship to the floor, in relationship to gravity. And I start there. And I
Mm.
ask myself, like, what does my body want? I don't start with a program right away. I go with what I know. And I start, honestly, even after 20 something years of moving my body, if I haven't moved in a bit, I always start with the basics. A glute bridge, a body weight squat. Everybody squats every single day. You squat when you sit down for dinner, you squat when you get into your car. And then I'll do a couple of them and I'll gauge and I'll go, did that feel good? If it felt good, I keep going with that. Maybe I add some weight. Maybe I add in some rotations. Maybe I do it sideways. Maybe I do it backwards. And then I kind of check in. If something doesn't feel good anymore, I don't keep doing it and hacking on my body. I'll literally mid program or like mid set go, you know what? This doesn't feel good. I'm done. And that's okay for people to do. And I think that goes back to our conversation earlier of like following other programs and taking it so far where it takes you out of like, it takes you off your own path. It takes you out of like the eye of the storm, out of your center. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it. And again, that doesn't mean you don't push, but movement should feel good at a certain point. Your body should, like after a set or after something, you should kind of go, okay, I prepped for the next thing. What's the next thing? And if it's not feeling good and your hip is kind of achy, you got to sit there and go, okay, my body didn't like that. Maybe let me skip to something in the upper body and try something else and then revisit that in 5 minutes and see how it is. Because maybe you just need another piece of the puzzle. Maybe you need like some hip openers. Maybe you need some glute bridges. Maybe you need to roll on the ground. It doesn't have to be complicated in the beginning, though. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong when it comes to goal setting is like too big, too soon, too fast. Before you step in the gym, I mentioned before, you need clean gym clothes. Maybe you need to build the habit of cleaning your bedroom because things are awry. Maybe before you step into the gym, the two things I always ask all of my clients, are you hydrated? Are you eating protein? It's like the two things that nobody's doing that would change their lives. Anytime they do those two things, their whole lives change and they set themselves up for success. Maybe before you hop in the gym, you're dehydrated and you're so achy and you're so like, I don't know about you. I drink a ton of water. I drink at least a gallon of water a day. When I don't, I'm cranky. I'm moody. I eat a ton of sugar. I'm craving sugar, 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 sugar. Um, so maybe you spend a week getting a gallon of water a day. If you don't even get anywhere close to that and you're doing a cup of water, maybe it's 2 cups of water for a little bit. There is no way you're not going to feel better if you hydrate your body. Some people don't feel good in movement because they're not hydrated enough. So like again, you have to start with some foundational steps first. But again, maybe like at a certain point in life when we're born, we have to build all these skills we have to learn. And there's a certain point, like you and I are in our 30s, where it's not about building anymore. It's actually like, what do you need to let go of so you can get into the gym? Because we're all so busy. There's so much going on. You probably have to throw a ton of things out. It's probably the programming that you need to get rid of. It's probably all the people that you're seeing. You're probably going out to restaurants 5 times a week. I don't know what's happening, but like there's patterns there. It's probably not picking up another skill set. It's simplifying, simplifying, simplifying. There's a certain point where you can't get more complicated. And like when you truly understand something really deeply, I've noticed it's not about making it more complicated. You really know something when you've simplified it to its simplest state, and you can do that and you can master that really well. And what I have noticed being a trainer for 20 years, most people go complicated way too soon. There's not one client, no matter how athletic, that I'm not going to sit down the first time I see them and I'm going to say, give me a body weight squat. Let's look into what that looks like. And I'll assess their ankles, their knees, their hips, their shoulders, their cervical spine in that basic fundamental pattern. All right, great. Your squat looks great. Or maybe it doesn't. How's your push-up look? These are body weight fundamental things that most of us should know, right? All right, what do the shoulders look like? Is the core engaged, the glutes engaged? Like it needs to be simple first before you ever complicate. So again, my advice is always like just keep it simple in the beginning. And then you're naturally going to grow into something bigger, especially if you just show up and practice that. So
Because you have that strong foundation as the base. And then you can,
I, to this day, still do basic programs most of the time. Do I also do some really cool stuff on one leg, jumping around, hopping that people will look at and be like, wow, that's really cool. You're really strong. Absolutely. It makes me feel good at this point. I've earned that, right? But I had to earn that by doing millions of squats. millions of push-ups, basic fundamental patterns. I learned to deadlift and I did a deadlift for 20 years, right? And now I can do crazy and fun stuff with it. But you don't walk into a gym doing complicated stuff. You got to earn it. Most people don't realize first 5 years, you are still in beginning stages and you want to be able to practice your basic fundamental skills over and over. Can you do it with your eyes shut? Can you do it? I don't know, outside of the gym on unstable surfaces like on the beach versus on a cement flat perfectly done up ground, right? But like get your basics down before you ever do complicated stuff. That's one advice I have to everybody is like basic fundamental patterns. Push, pull up, deadlift, squat, lunge repeatedly as
Yeah.
many times as you can.
Yeah, but as you said, those are the bases that are going to build a strong foundation that you can stand on, and getting honest with yourself about what's actually stopping you, because like you said, everyone knows. Everyone knows. It's like, okay, I don't have a tough time. Okay, what needs to be moved around? Because if the will is there, we say it is by will alone, right? If the will is there, it'll happen for you. And if it's not happening for you, there's some deeper emotional, psychological thing that we need to address. And we have tools like energy healing, life coaching, deeper questioning, or even just holding space for you to be able to move through and be successful. So thank you, Monica, so much for your insights. I feel your passion so much when you talk about this stuff. And I feel like, you know, the shifts that I would love to see in the world of fitness and health, I see you holding those visions really clearly. And I want to thank you for that because I think it's really important. Health is so important, and being able to move our bodies and have a good connection with ourselves and all dimensions is so important. So thank you for holding that for yourself and in your life and for your clients as well.
Of course, your health and access to your physical body is the greatest wealth. You don't have much if you don't have access to that, Like to be able to be in your body and express and the service that we can do when we're of strong mind, body, and spirit is absolutely phenomenal. If you have it, it's a huge privilege. So I try to embody that as much as I can and hold space for to meet anybody where they're at because everybody can move no matter whether you're in 2 feet or in a wheelchair, everybody can do something and move their physical body in space. So if you have access to it, it's really important to be able to tap into that and it'll make you a better person emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, like all the ways. So for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So if people want to work with you, you are based in Newport, Rhode Island, and you are taking clients, you are taking personal training and energy healing and things like that. How else can they find you?
Yes, my Instagram handle, The Healing Paradigm. I'm in Newport, Rhode Island. I take in-home clients, I take virtual clients, but I work out of Bullfrog Fit in Portsmouth. For those people who do not have access or space in their homes or equipment. And then again, it depends on the fit, but I see a lot of clients virtually over the phone via Zoom. It's all based on flow. It's all based on fit. So yeah, that's where I'm currently based.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being on and for sharing your expertise and your wisdom and your passion and your drive. And for everyone watching and listening, follow the Like-Minded Individuals podcast, and you can reach out to me for energy healing and spiritual guidance. And go out there in the world and find and connect with your body, connect with your health. It'll help you achieve your mission. It'll help you be effective and efficient in achieving anything that you want in life, whether it be, spiritually or physically, whatever goal that you're trying to achieve out in your world, having your physical health on your side will do nothing but bring you positivity and enhancement in your life. So thank you so much, Monica, for chatting with me today. And thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.